your thoughts lead you in a particular direction. And if you start to allow your mind to dwell on negative outcomes, if you start to obsess that things are not going to work out, if you allow yourself to continue to think negative thoughts, you're not only priming your mind to default to negative, but you will literally, through your thoughts, trigger negative actions. You know, if you think about it, you've had experiences in your life, right, where you've really trashed yourself, you've hated on yourself. And when you continually think that you hate yourself, or you continually tell yourself that you're screwing up, you tend to do things that you hate, don't you? But when you're in a positive mindset, when you're in an optimistic mindset, when you interrupt those negative thoughts and you start to say, well, maybe it is going to work out, or, you know, I got to just keep on going. Your thoughts literally can trigger positive action too.
Need motivation?
You better watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Mel Robbins, and my take on her top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, get your mindset back.
I find that even when change is exciting, it's still scary. Even when you know that this big move that you want to make, this big goal that you want to achieve is something that you're meant to do, even though you know it, it feels overwhelming. We found an incredible apartment in Boston and are negotiating right now a place. And I had nightmares last night about this apartment. Nightmares. Why? Well, because anything new, any change that you want to make is going to require you to literally end things in your old life. You see, I think that so many of us, there are two lives that we have. There's the life that you're currently living, and then there's the one that you're going to live next. Hello, whoever's flying that jet. I'm going to say that again. We all have two lives. The life you're currently living and the life you're going to launch next. And when you're in the middle of thinking about changes and making big changes in your life, I feel like it's almost like you're walking across a suspension bridge as you're building it. And so I have become so indecisive about everything. Like I noticed last night I was trying to reach out to somebody that was recommended to me as a potential person to hire as an executive producer for this big podcast we're launching this fall in Boston. And I couldn't even get myself focused to write the email. Now, the reason why is because when you're on edge, when you're overwhelmed, when you feel stressed or scared about something, your nervous system kicks into a state of alert, and that impacts your brain's ability to focus. So what do you need when you feel that way? I'll tell you what you need. You need to hit the freaking reset button. You need to get your mindset back in check. You got to focus on the simple things that you can do every day to make yourself feel steady and secure and clear, even as everything is changing around you.
Rule number 3, stay in control.
You want to focus on what's in your control, okay? That's what you want to do. If you're going through a divorce, you're waiting for lawyers. And this process of anticipation, this process of having to be patient, the first thing that you need to do is ask yourself, and this is, by the way, stuff that I talk about in the High Five Habit book. This is about how to cultivate a high five attitude when things are out of your control, how to cultivate a high five attitude when you are waiting and are feeling this anticipation, how to cultivate a high five attitude when you might be disappointed. I mean, you're not going to have everything be a win in life. And so rule number 1, you want to put 150% effort in on something that you care about, okay? So if you are sitting here and you're waiting to hear back on something, or you're waiting to do something, you want to ask yourself, have I put 150% in? One of the reasons why I just fired off literally a 3-page detailed email to this landlord, basically saying these girls need a win. They all have jobs after working internships. their senior year. They are respectful. They're not looking at your house like a frat house like so many other people will. They need individual rooms in case they have to work remote. Like I went boom, 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 boom. They're looking for a home. Why did I do that? Because I think it's really important when you are trying to make something happen in your life, really important when you're going for something that you can personally say to yourself, I have done 150%. I have gone all in, okay? And so I feel like, yeah, we went all in. We got our application in. We got the check submitted. We got the love letter submitted. And now what I do when I'm waiting is I literally say, I've put in 150%. I can give myself that high five. I can look the woman in the mirror and I can say, I know I did everything that I could. What will eat you alive, everybody, is if you're waiting and you know that you didn't put 150% in. It will eat you alive to be waiting to hear back on a job or on some test result or on an application to a program or a school, and to know that you didn't put in 150%, that's what's going to cause the disappointment.
Rule number 4, regain self-love.
If you know the moment that you started to think, wow, I got to change myself to fit in. I can't be gay. I can't have kinky hair. I don't like the color of my skin because I feel like there's something wrong with me. Society gave you that message. Your parents did. Maybe a bully said something to you. I see somebody writing the way that I walk. I see somebody talking about the texture of their hair. I see somebody saying, I always felt like there was something wrong with me. Well, let me tell you something, everybody. I never fit in with any particular groups of friends. Let me tell you something. Every one of you is now going, I remember that feeling because I was the only immigrant in my class. I was the only Muslim in my class. I didn't look like the other people. I didn't feel like the other people. My father was so critical, right? When you start to get this message from society or other people or just this perception that you have that something's wrong with you, this is where your obsession with changing yourself to fit in begins. This is where your obsession with people pleasing, this is where this sense that you don't belong anywhere that you go began. And it can become a habit. And so we're going to unpack this because what I want you to understand is that you literally came into this world perfect, whole, and complete. You are wired to love yourself. You're wired for love. That's why you miss it. You're wired for self-acceptance. And the world taught you that there's something about you that needs to be changed in order to be liked or loved. And it's simply not true. When you can come back home to yourself and you can accept and love yourself first, exactly where you are, exactly where you're not, then you'll know the secret to going out in the world and not feeling like you never really belong anywhere or you constantly need to tweak yourself or how you show up in order to be accepted by people. When you accept yourself as you are, when you love yourself as you are, other people liking or loving you is just a bonus, but it doesn't change how you feel about yourself.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, embrace your uniqueness.
There will never be another you. There never has been another you. There will never be another you that will ever walk this earth. You are the one and only, which means you have something extraordinarily unique to give to the world. and feeling celebrated and feeling seen and feeling heard. It is so tied into your existence because of how unique you are. That's why you long to be recognized as an individual. That's why you long to be celebrated as an individual. This need, it's so important and foundational to you and the fact that your birth and existence is a miracle, that it's as important to your well-being to be seen and heard and appreciated as food and water. The difference between a good day and a bad day, you know what it comes down to typically, is just being acknowledged by somebody. And you know who's the best person to acknowledge and validate you? You are. And that brings me back to that moment every single morning when you come face to face with yourself in the mirror. High-fiving yourself is so much more than a physical act. It's foundational. It's a transfer of energy. It symbolizes an alliance and a belief in yourself and your ability. You aren't congratulating yourself, you're celebrating yourself as you are. And you just heard the math. Your existence is what makes you worthy of a high five. Your presence, your hopes, your dreams, your capacity to love, your ability to heal, to change, to grow, your heart, your soul. That's what makes you worthy of being seen and heard and appreciated. Not once in a while, but every single day. That's what you deserve. That's what you need. And the miracle of your existence is why you need it. See, when you are able to see yourself, when you are able to celebrate yourself, when you are able to treat yourself in a way that you have been wishing your parents would have, or wishing your friends or your spouse or your boss would, when you take control, this is what you communicate. It's incredible. You're basically, when you're able to hear yourself and see yourself and support yourself, and I believe that simply adding a high five in the mirror to yourself as part of your morning routine, every single day, you start the day by fulfilling those foundational needs that the miracle of your birth demands of you.
Rule number 6, stop victimizing yourself.
I love myself because I feel comfortable in my own skin. I love myself, everybody, because I don't label myself as a bad or selfish or broken or whatever person. I just encourage myself. I give myself compassion, and I work hard every day to maintain that kind of relationship with myself. I have truly stopped victimizing myself, and I have empowered myself by encouraging and being compassionate with myself. And you're meant to feel this way about yourself too. This is how you're meant to feel. You're meant to feel comfortable in your own skin. You're meant to feel proud of yourself. You're meant to feel celebrated and encouraged by yourself. And look, I still don't live on the right street. I still don't belong to that country club. I can't go back and redo my college and my law school years. But here's what I can tell you. You can break the habit of beating yourself up over the past. You can break the habit of constantly victimizing and bashing yourself. You can break the habit of labeling yourself with these horrible labels and indicting yourself by saying you are this way. No, the behavior that you engaged in may have sucked back then, but you don't suck. You're just a human being and you're figuring things out. And now that you know what you need to do better, you can do better.
Rule number 7, celebrate small wins.
You're not celebrating the small wins. So as you make manifesting a skill, as you get consistent about it, as you start to be a student, as you take inspired action, as you realize that you do feel like this is going to happen. You don't even have a timeline on it because you know it's going to happen. You're not, as you're doing these things, recognizing all the small wins that you have. Every day when you manifest and then you take the action that the manifesting has inspired, that's a win. When you see doors opening up because you've been moving toward what you want, that's a win. When you randomly meet somebody that introduces you to somebody that helps you get one step closer, that's a win. And you need to celebrate that stuff. These are signs. These are not coincidences. These are signs that you're on the right path. A lot of people believe in angel signs, like seeing the number 11 or 22 or the number 9, or for me, the number 5. Angel signs are cool because for me, angel signs are a mile marker that give you a clue that you're moving in the right direction. Your job is to declare what you want. Your job is to use manifesting to train your mind, body, and spirit and remove the obstacles that you would normally put in place. Your job is to take the actions that are inspired by manifesting and start moving toward what you want. You also, though, need to call out those mile markers when you see it. Holy shit, I just got introduced to somebody in the movie business, and it's my dream, and I'm manifesting that I have my script turned into a movie. This is a sign that I'm on the right path. And what you want to do is call those things out, not because the universe or magic or this is somehow just randomly happening. This is you being rewarded for manifesting properly, for believing in yourself, and for taking the inspired action that is going to make your dreams a reality. And these little moments, these signs, these small wins that are happening every day as you make manifesting a consistent skill that you practice in the morning, that you put to use so that you are aligned with what you want, so that your mind, body, and spirit is working with you instead of against you. When you start to also call out the small wins, there I am manifesting. There, this thing happened. This is happening too. There are my angel numbers. Holy cow, this just happened. You're now building momentum. You're now energetically rewarding your body for aligning with what you want. And it just makes all of this that much stronger. It makes your belief stronger. It makes your courage bigger. It makes your confidence stronger. That's how all of this builds one on the other. And if you're not willing to call out the small wins, you're missing a huge amount of mojo and rocket fuel and magic that you can add into the mix, because all of these small wins are literally reasons for you to be more confident, reasons for you to keep going, reasons for you to really know in your mind, body, and spirit that, yeah, this is going to happen because you're making it happen.
Rule number 8, empower yourself.
Create habits of empowering yourself, because empowering yourself, forgiving yourself, supporting yourself as you move forward and do the work to change your life, that's how you break the habit of victimizing yourself. And that's how you learn to do the opposite, which is supporting, empowering, cheering, celebrating yourself as you move forward. That's what's going to motivate you to do the action. And look, if Chris and I can go from having liens on this house 6 years ago to literally building an extraordinary business, changing our marriage to the point where we are building our dream house, a house that's so nice, I can't even believe we are going to live in this house, because of the hard work that we've done. But I'll tell you, the singular habit that helped us do it is we stopped victimizing ourselves. We stopped labeling ourselves. We stopped beating the shit out of ourselves. And we broke that habit. We changed the narrative by learning how to empower ourselves.
Rule number 9, just be yourself.
The secret to life is actually the opposite. Be yourself. Be yourself. Let the world fit into who you are. Be yourself. It's more important that you be yourself and like yourself than anything else, everybody. And we've all bought into this bullshit our whole life because people taught you that this is how the world works. This is the lesson I didn't mean to teach our son, that it's better to fit in than be yourself, that I'll like you and love you if the version of you is the one that I like and love. Ugh, I hate that I did this. And kids, if you're watching this, I'm really sorry. And I'm sure your parents, if you're not my kids that are watching this, didn't mean to do it either. They didn't know any better. This is how their parents raised them. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying this is what's so, everybody. I hate that story. But that's the heart of what happened to you, to me, to everybody you know. you started questioning what you look like and what you do and ultimately who you are. And that's how your connection to your truest self gets blocked. That's why you stopped accepting yourself. It's why you started criticizing yourself. It's why you stand in front of a mirror and pick yourself apart, because your mom or dad used to do it to you. For our daughter or anyone who struggles with their appearance, you got to start to reverse this. You got to learn how to appreciate the parts of yourself right now. You got to stop trashing yourself. If you are pulling on a pair of jeans and beating yourself up and trashing yourself because they're tough to pull on, just dump the jeans in the trash, please. Because when you criticize yourself and you beat yourself up, you're treating yourself the way I treated our son. You are basically treating yourself the way I treated our son. You're saying your love for yourself is transactional. Until I approve of everything about your life and the way you look, I'm going to withhold the love and acceptance that you need in life. And it's a horrible way to go. So you don't hate, appreciate. You don't need to change anything to deserve the love and acceptance that you need. Just like my son did not need to change his blue hair to be loved and accepted. To be loved and accepted for who you are, all I needed to do was love and accept him exactly as he was. I made a huge mistake, everybody. The next time you stand in front of a mirror, stop poking and prodding and picking yourself apart. For those of us that put makeup on, let the makeup be a creative expression, something that's additive, and stop having the makeup be an act where you cover yourself up because you think you're ugly or you think that how you look isn't okay. If you're going to wear makeup, do it as a creative expression. Do it because it's fun. Don't do it because you need to fix yourself, because you don't need to fix yourself. Just like my son did not need to cut his hair. I needed to learn the lesson that love is not transactional. Love is unconditional. Love is accepting somebody for exactly who they are and where they are and how they look and how they express themselves. That's what love is. It's accepting someone for everything that they are and everything that they're not. It's caring for somebody and supporting and seeing somebody for who they are right now, where they are right now.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is fulfill your emotional needs.
When you feel seen, when you feel heard, and when you feel celebrated or accepted for the contribution that you make as an individual, unique individual, you feel safe, you feel like you belong, and at your core, you feel loved. When you don't feel seen, you feel invisible in life. When you don't feel heard, you're going to feel misunderstood. And when you don't feel like you are accepted or validated, you feel completely rejected and disconnected. You feel like you are unworthy or unloved. And so again, we're going to talk about your need to be seen, to be heard, and to be accepted and celebrated. You need this at work. You need this at home. You need this in your relationships, your friendships, your romantic relationships, your family. And, if you just reflect in your life, where do you feel seen, heard, and celebrated? Where in your life do you feel that way? Or is there a person in your life that makes you feel that way? Hopefully, you are saying that you make yourself feel seen, heard, and celebrated. But is there somebody else in your life that makes you feel that way? It could be a caregiver. It could be somebody that you're in a romantic relationship with. It could be a mentor. It could be a friend. It could be your pet, right? I think one of the reasons why we all love our cats and our dogs so much is because there's such unconditional love. You walk in the door, they come running right at you. And so you feel seen and you feel celebrated, right? And when they're right there with you, or, have you ever noticed how when you get really upset and you start crying, what do your animals do? Oh my God, they hear you and they come right on over. And those responses that are so innate when it comes to your pets, everybody, they're fulfilling your emotional needs. That's why you feel so safe and connected and loved by your pets, because you feel seen by them, you feel heard by them, and you feel celebrated and loved by them. And I do see people saying, I feel that way about my daughter, my mom, a mentor of mine. These core values, when they're missing from your life of being seen, heard, celebrated, and accepted, this is what leads you to feeling stuck and disconnected and unfulfilled. And the good news is, when you realize that these core fundamental needs truly dictate how you feel and experience your life, now you've got the access point to be able to change how you're experiencing your life by focusing on your core fundamental needs and making sure that they are met. One of the most important things when you're in a situation where the truth, the facts are that there is more on your plate than one human being can effectively handle on his or her own, there's a really important moment where you have to surrender to the chaos that your life is for the next couple weeks. Things are going to change when summer hits, but part of what I find personally is that when I resist, and I do resist, I resist what's actually happening when that's not the way that I want things to go. And so if you start complaining or you start bringing extra weight to all of the things that are going on, it's going to make it feel even more overwhelming. And if you can bring a sense of realism to it. So I call this, and I think Sean Anker's the one that came up with this term, realistic optimism. Realistic optimism is a really powerful mindset because you're not just putting a sunny spin on a crappy situation. You're being realistic about where you are in your life right now, and you are still maintaining an optimistic point of view. And what that means is that you, when you're an optimist, you believe that your actions and your thoughts matter. You believe that you can handle what's on your plate. You believe that based on your thoughts and your actions, you can positively affect the outcome of whatever it is that you're dealing with, whether it's being wildly overwhelmed because you're a single parent, or terrified because you just got a scary health diagnosis, or you're spinning because somebody just told you they don't want to be in a relationship with you anymore. Whatever it is that you're facing that's making you feel overwhelmed, first start with how important it is to be a realistic optimist. So there's a surrendering to what's so, but you're going to stay very optimistic and positive and know that everything that you think and do is in your control, and that when you know that your behavior matters, it gives you a sense of empowerment that's proven by research. Super duper important. It's also why you can have a very hard life right now and a very overwhelming life right now and still be happy. Because you know, based on being a realistic optimist, that this period will pass, and you know that there are things that you can think about and do that are within your control. I think I am engaged in emotional eating right now. It is 2:22 in the afternoon. The wheels are off today. I know why. The reason why is because I did not stick to my normal routine. And I've noticed since I did not stick to my routine, my day has sort of slid off the rails in terms of the decisions that I'm making. It's really random. Like, I had my son's chicken nuggets for lunch, and there's half an apple that I ate. I have not finished the amount of water I normally drink. It is 2:23, and I made myself an ice cream sundae because, why the hell not? And so as I'm sitting here enjoying my ice cream sundae, I just thought to myself, God, am I emotionally eating right now? Oh my God, this is so good. If I really unpack what I'm feeling right now, it's raining, it's freezing. I am mentally in a creative block, and I'm going to get this tool that we use on the Mel Robbins show out. I call it the word wheel. So I'm going to show you the word wheel right now. Here's how you use a word wheel. The average person can only name 3 emotions: happy, sad, and angry. But our emotions are actually much deeper and more complex. And the secret to getting unstuck or untriggered or freed up in any situation is to find the words that describe what you are truly feeling. So I'm going to start with the core emotion of anger and fear and work out from there. And so as I look at the word wheel, I feel inadequate as a writer. I feel worried that I'm not going to have a creative breakthrough. I feel helpless. The big one is I feel inadequate as a writer. Whoa, big breakthrough. So I am feeding my inadequacy with an ice cream sundae. You know what's interesting? Is simply finding the word that I feel inadequate as a writer. And that makes me feel afraid that the book isn't going to be good, that it's not going to be as good as I want, it's not going to do as well, it's not going to get any accolades or good reviews, it's not going to make a difference in your life. As you identify the feeling, and for me it's inadequate, that sundae doesn't taste very good anymore. Because it wasn't a sundae that I was craving, it was reassurance and comfort from this deeper feeling that I was feeling. Wow, that's powerful stuff. Really powerful stuff. So if you are at a moment where you catch yourself emotionally eating, or you just feel untethered or numb, pull out the word wheel. You can find it at melrobbins.com. And I think you'll find it to be a really incredible tool that will help you locate what you're truly working through. And instead of reaching for an ice cream sundae, which honestly is going to now tank my mood because of all the sugar and make me feel lethargic. If you can identify the word, which for me is inadequate, inferior, worried, frustrated, you can let those feelings rise up, move through them, and then move on. Two hours later, and let me tell you the impact of having fed my feelings. First of all, I am totally bloated. So I realize that that's not big, but for me, my stomach is just like, because all that sugar and dairy that I just pounded down is now sitting here like a rock. And this is the problem with emotional eating, is you get caught in this cycle where you feed these feelings and then your body starts to tank and your mood tanks and your stomach gets bloated. And so then you start to make yourself wrong and feel ashamed and feel like a bad person because you did it. So how do you stop emotional eating? And what business do I have giving any of us advice given that I just did it? Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do tomorrow when I inevitably hit that creative block. Is emotional eating, you know that it's emotional if it's comes on suddenly, if you aren't just craving something, but you are reaching for something that is a treat or that's soothing. And before I do that tomorrow, when my writer's block inevitably happens again, I will take a deep breath and I will ask myself, what am I feeling? Why am I reaching for this food? Am I hungry, or am I trying to soothe or comfort or distract myself? Because I was clearly trying to soothe and distract myself from the feelings that writer's block was bringing up. And now I need to get some gas sex or something, because I got to distract myself from the gas pains that I have from my emotional eating. But, honestly, the discomfort I'm feeling right now, that's not going to stop me from doing it tomorrow. The only thing that will stop this pattern is spotting the pattern and using the tools that I just gave you. Identify what you're feeling, ask you why it is you're reaching for this. If you're not hungry, but you're trying to soothe, distract, or reward yourself, you're feeding some feeling. Recognize the feeling, put down the ice cream, go for a walk, choose something healthy, address the feeling. Don't reach for the food. The reticular activity system, the RAS for short, if you don't know what it is, picture a hairnet over your brain that is a live network. And the RAS is a filter, and it has a huge job. And it is a filter that blocks out 99% of the world and lets in about, 0.000000001%. And it is always changing. There are only 4 things, Tom, that get through the hairnet on your head. The sound of your name, and you've experienced this because you've been walking through a crowd and you're like, did somebody say my name? Right? The
cocktail party effect.
Cocktail party effect.
Weird.
The second thing that gets through is any sort of threat. So if you hear a loud noise and you go like this, there are lots of noises you didn't hear, but the loud one you kind of duck because it's a threat. The third thing is when your partner is interested in sex with either you or someone else. That's why you're like, why are you checking that person out, right? You know, because the brain is letting that information in. The fourth thing, and this is where the transformation begins. Your brain will let in anything that it believes is important to you. The Zeigarnik effect is the documented fact that when something is important to you, and I'll explain what that means, your brain opens up a checklist in your mind. And now your brain, once it puts this item on your checklist, it will store the checklist in your subconscious. It's encoded in your RAS. And your mind is now on the alert to spot things related to it. The way that you make yourself feel like something is important is your nervous system goes on alert while you're thinking about it. You're either super excited about something, oh, this is super important, or this is the trauma effect. You go on alert and you have something really bad happen, which is why things continue to bring it up throughout the rest of your life. So when you understand that if something's important to you, your filter will change in real time how you see the world. You now know how to change your brain to work for you. And looking for hearts is the way I'm going to prove to you that this happens. I want to give you one other example because everybody's experienced this. If you've ever gone shopping for a new car or you've dreamt about having a new car, what happens immediately when you get excited about that new car is your mind goes, Zeigarnik effect, oops, okay, Tom wants the new Bronco. That's cool. So what do you see now? You see Broncos everywhere. Now, they were always there, but your mind is letting them in because the Zeigarnik effect is now made it on a checklist. It's changed the RAS. And so I am going to prove to you that it is unbelievably cool that you can change the way that you view the world by looking for heart-shaped objects. So tomorrow when you wake up, you're going to start your day by high-fiving yourself in the mirror. I want you to examine what the resistance about, because you're going to start to then be able to unpack what's holding you back. Then you're going to go out in the world and just tell your mind, I want to see a heart today. Look for a rock, look for a leaf, look in your latte. Is there a little shape there? Is there an oil stain on the floor? And when you see one, stop and go, there's a scavenger hunt. I never would have seen that before. Thank you, brain. Now your brain's like, woo, more hearts. You will start to see hearts everywhere. And when you can start to train your brain and realize, whoa, this is actually a cool thing. This is high-fiving your mind. When you can see hearts, you can now go, wait a minute. If I can change what I see based on what I tell it, maybe if I got serious about not constantly saying I'm a failure, I wouldn't attach that or see it everywhere. Maybe if I got serious about saying, I can figure anything out. This is happening for a reason. Instead of, you say, okay, I'm going to learn something with this. It changes the way your brain filters everything. And this is such an important piece to the book because we've all had the experience where you love somebody deeply and you see all their incredible attributes and all they see is failure, or all they see is the weight that they can't lose. And it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what kind of pep talk or support you give them. Your loved one still only sees what they hate about themselves. Blame the filter in your brain. You have been bitching about your appearance or the weight on your scale, the fact that you're a failure for so long, your brain believes it's important to you to see reasons why this is true. And one of the things I got to say about this, and everything in the book, is the tools are simple, Tom. But it's super important to say, just because you change and start celebrating yourself, it's not going to make the weight disappear suddenly. It doesn't change the number on the scale overnight. What it changes is you. And that changes your ability to deal with the problems and the issues you want to change in your life. I wanted to make this video because I know in some area of your life, you are wanting to start something, you're wanting to put yourself out there more, and you are holding yourself back. And one place that I see this playing out all the time is the fact that so many people, probably you, are self-conscious and nervous about putting videos online. You're self-conscious and nervous about talking about your business or sharing the breakthroughs that you're having, or just showing up in a bigger, bolder, more self-expressed way because, heck, it makes your life more fun when you do. And so you have this deep yearning to be doing more, and then I know exactly what happens to you. You look at the number of people that follow you. You then say, who the hell am I to say that? You then go, nobody's going to watch it anyway. And I want to share with you brand new research that blows that lame excuse, although normal excuse, right out of the water. It was published literally this month from Ohio State University, and it proves that when it comes to video content, the video content that people find compelling has nothing to do with the number of views that it has. It has to do with the person and the message that's being communicated. To be compelling, to make an impact, to be influential, because I know everybody wants to raise their influence and their visibility and to show up in bigger ways. It is all about the message, and you're in control of that. Do you communicate with passion? Do you have conviction about what you're talking about? You could be talking about, I don't know, whether you like white cords or these like black cords with this end, or whether you like this kind of end or this end, or where you like this cap, or whether you, I love to drink this way because I have a big nose, and then this way. And I'm telling you, you don't have to have this thing on. You could literally talk about anything. And if you bring passion and you bring conviction to what you're talking about, people will pay attention. That's what real influence is. It's the ability to show up in ways and have conviction and passion about the things that you believe in. Whether you're talking about a water bottle cap or you're talking about how to be healthier, happier, or more effective in your life. So enough with the excuses, enough with worrying about how many followers you have or whether or not Aunt Sue is gonna like the video or not, or what people are gonna think. The only thing that matters is the conviction and passion that you communicate with, and of course, getting started. So based on the research, get started. You have this behavior pattern where you snap. You have this behavior pattern where you yell and you get upset and you make people wrong and you don't mean to. If you are somebody who's ever said to yourself, I wish I could stop yelling, or I wish I could just snap, I could stop snapping. This video is absolutely unbelievable, okay? And the reason why is I explained this research that was so mind-blowing for me. It's called Ghosts in the Nursery. A lot of the patterns that you have that you don't have control over are patterns from your childhood, and they are there because when you were a kid, you experienced people in your life that were tense. Did you ever have a parent that was a yeller? Did you ever have a teacher that was a yeller, or a coach that was a yeller? And secretly in your little kid body, whenever your mom or dad would yell, or your coach would yell, or your teacher would yell, or your grandmother or grandfather would yell, you would feel tense, right? You would feel nervous. You would feel on edge. Of course, that's how we all feel, right? Well, here's the reason why
You might have an issue, like I used to have an issue, where I would yell at my kids and then I'd feel terrible about it. I'd snap at my husband and then I'd feel terrible about it. Psychologists, and then I would say to myself, I'm not doing that again, I'm not doing that again, but I wouldn't have the ability to end it. Psychologists call this ghosts in the nursery. It means that any situation where you start to feel tense or you start to feel stressed out, guess what happens? Your body remembers what it was like when you were little to feel tense and stressed out. And what were the adults doing around you when you felt that way? They were snapping. They were yelling. And now here you are repeating the pattern. And you don't know why. And you feel guilty. And I'm explaining this to you because it wasn't until I thought, holy cow, like I know I don't want to snap at my husband. I know I don't want to take my anger from work out on my family. Why can't I stop this? That's the reason why. It's because it's a pattern that you remember from being a kid, that the adults around you were snapping or yelling or being mean anytime, and when they were, you felt tense and stressed out. So now that you're an adult, when you're tense and stressed out, you repeat the behavior that you witnessed. Crazy, right? So how do you stop it? Well, the first step to stopping anything is to actually understand what you're dealing with. Now that you know you're dealing with a pattern, now all you need to do is basically say, okay, I'm going to put a practice in place that's going to interrupt this pattern. What's the practice? Well, a really good one is before you walk in the house at the end of the day, if you're stressed out, take 5. Take 5 deep breaths. Like reset your mood, reset your energy before you walk in the house, and you'll be surprised by how much nicer you are to the people around you. Another thing that you can do, and this one's not so fun, is you can train your partner, your kids, your roommates, your family, that if you're trying to get a hold of how you bring stress home, you can train them to say to you, hey, don't take your work stress out on me. When somebody that you care about says that to you, it's a humbling experience. And the person that says it the most in my life is my son, Oakley. The youngsters seem to love to cross-check the adults. So be careful with taking that advice.
We encourage people to break boundaries. You know, they feel like they're limited, but you talk about your boundaries are there to serve you. So obviously it's a different type of boundary, but you know,
so here's the thing.
What boundaries do you need to help yourself to protect yourself, and which ones do you need to grow past that are holding you back?
I think that the definition with boundaries that has helped me the most is understanding that boundaries are for me, they're not for you. And the single biggest mistake that we make in any relationship, particularly romantic ones, but also work-related ones, is we do not express what we need. Any pattern can be replaced.
Yeah.
Change isn't personal. It just feels personal. Change is just about identifying patterns and replacing them with new ones. That's it. Mm-hmm. And it'll take a little while because they're encoded in your nervous system, and your default is to just do it yourself. But you cannot, as a rule, punish other people for you didn't communicate.
Right.
So I'll give you the perfect example. So Chris and I have been married for 24 years. And when I was before the talk show, and I made my living mostly by, doing 100 speeches a year, I would be on the road 150 days a year. And when I would come home, there was always something that pissed me off.
Like what? Like, the trash isn't taken out, the clothes are here, or is it something else?
Oh, no, I'm way worse than that. Are you kidding? I would walk in after being gone for 5 or 6 days, and there on the island in the kitchen was a vase that had dead flowers, the ones that I had bought for myself a week before. And it was as if everybody in my family had been walking around the island for 6 days as if there was some dead flower sculpture in the middle of the island. And so I would come home, and first of all, the only person that's really excited to see me is a dog. And my family did sit me down at one point and they said, you realize when you're not here, we have our own lives. So you don't put your lives on hold while, for us, and we're not putting our lives on hold. So it's not that we're not excited to see you, but we're not organizing our whole lives around when mom comes home.
Right.
Which is actually really good.
To be like the dog, excited and running up and jumping in your arms and kissing you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they don't. But I think that's cool because that means that they're independent and doing their own thing.
They've set boundaries.
They've set boundaries with me. Perfect. So for probably 6 months, I would get pissy and I would walk in and put my bags down and I grab the flowers and I demonstratively, how many times has everyone done this? Throw them out loudly, like, are you
everyone hears
my
you.
Communication? Yeah, I'm getting my communication. Just throwing these dead flowers out, communicate to you that you should buy me flowers. Like, I'm not saying that, but that's what the body language is, right? How dare I have been off. I've been in 4 cities and then you become a mart. Like, ugh, I'm disgusting when I tell this story, but this is it. This is like, so.
Well, I see you've got some lovely flowers behind you that look alive. So that's good to see.
Oh, that's nice. So Lupin. So I do love flowers. So finally, I just said to Chris, you know what would make me feel amazing is if when I came home, you had just bought some flowers. Just go to just when you're at the grocery store. It doesn't, you don't have to order. Like I'm saying, buy the $5 pack of half dead tulips, just something. Okay. And then he said, why? And this is the most important part of expressing. And look, you don't have to give an explanation if you're trying to like cut off a toxic person. But if you want to express boundaries with somebody because you want them to understand you more deeply, give them the why. I said, because it makes me think that you are excited for me to come home and that you knew I was coming because I'm starting to feel forgotten. So underneath the anger, Lewis,
wow,
was hurt and feeling like I didn't matter. And so I'll be darned, I walk in and there they are. And I literally feel so seen. You got to be honest with yourself. If there are things about your appearance that are within your control, whether it is the shape that you're in, whether it's the health choices that you're making, whether it's how you take care of yourself in terms of self-love, and you're not taking action in those areas, the lack of action says to your brain, you don't care about yourself. And so what I want you to do is pick one thing, one behavior that you could do every day. The high five's one of them. Pick another one. And I want you to practice doing it. And it's a behavior. If you think about the person that you want to become, what's that person do every day that you don't do right now? And when you start to do the thing that the person you want to become is doing, you leverage something called behavioral activation therapy. And that is a whole body of research that says when you act like the person you want to become, it's the most powerful way to change a habit. It's even better therapy than talk therapy because the action proves to your brain that you're becoming that person. You're seeing the change through the action. And so then the brain catches up and starts to relate to you like a person that's confident or a person who adores their appearance or a person that celebrates themselves exactly as they are. First of all, stop talking about passion. Stop talking about launching a business, okay? When you think about it too big, it will paralyze you. If you're lucky and you're in a position where your bills are getting paid and you have the luxury of being able to try to think about what you want to do in this next chapter, here's where I want you to start. I want you to start with what energizes you. Now, how ironic is that, given that I'm speaking at the Energetic Women's Conference here in Indianapolis today? Why am I saying energizes you? And what am I talking about when I say energize? When I say energizes you, I'm asking you, what is it that you're curious about? What is it that you feel so expanded? You feel energized. You feel kind of excited whenever you're doing it. You're in a phase when you're just trying to figure out what's your next move, of just paying attention to your curiosity, paying attention to the things that interest you. The truth is, passion is just energy. If you're passionate about something, it means you're energized when you do it. So let's reverse engineer this and let's just ask yourself a simple question. What are you curious about? What energizes you?
And if you allow yourself to explore things that energize you, you, my friend, will start to find the clues about what it is that you should and could be doing. Because all the research says that if you're doing something that you like, if you're doing something that you're curious about, you're not only going to enjoy it, you're going to be really good at it. Because if you like doing it, you'll spend more time doing it, which means you're going to get better at it. We moved to Vermont. I got a brand new primary care doctor. And I thought he said something really interesting. He's this great guy. He's settled here because his wife's family is from Vermont. And so he's now lived here for 40 years. And at the end of my first appointment with him, he said a really interesting thing to me. He kind of chuckled because, of course, I'm very entertaining and bubbly and all this stuff. And he said, it's going to be really fun to watch what happens to you. And I'm like, what doctor says that to somebody? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, I'll tell you, Mel. In the years that I've been practicing as a primary care doctor in southern Vermont, I have seen so many people move to Vermont. They're seeking a quieter lifestyle. They're seeking a change, a new chapter. And what I find is, what you're actually seeking is a safe haven and you're running away from your problems, a funny thing happens. Your problems always go with you. And when you move somewhere very quiet, the solitude just magnifies the that you were trying to get away from. And so if you're starting a new chapter because you're excited and you're reinventing yourself, that's fabulous. Still take time to complete the last chapter that you were in. So you step into the new chapter with all of the wisdom and the gratitude and the learning and the growth that you gained. If you are starting a new chapter, as so many of us do, because we are running away from the old us, we're running away from a bad relationship, we're closing the door on something that wasn't working, you better make sure you take the time to think through and journal about this last chapter, who you've been, the habits you no longer want to repeat, the mistakes that you made, what you've learned, what you're running from, and more importantly, what changes you're going to make and how this new chapter is going to support you in doing it and in becoming the person that you're meant to be. Without that intentional moment of reflection and without that intentional moment where you're going to list out the behaviors and thinking patterns and habits you're changing, my doctor's right. You're just going to take all that crap you're running from right into this new chapter. I know that in this next chapter that I consciously create, I want to have more fun. I really want to love the process.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it so hard on myself and be gripping everything so tight. And it's really easy for me to see it in other people because I know what it feels like in here. I'm working hard to break the patterns that still hold me back. And the big one that holds me back is bulldozing. It's literally when I start to feel any level of tension. This is particularly true in my marriage. I'm married to a saint. Thank God Chris Robbins meditates every morning. It's the only reason why we've lasted 26 years. It's how he puts up with me. When I feel my emotion rise, I immediately raise my voice.
Wow.
It's how I assert power in the relationship. And I am so committed, Lewis, to breaking that pattern.
Wow.
And being a more fun person to be around and a kinder person to be around. There are 7.5 billion people on this incredible planet of ours. But do you know how many of them you're responsible for? Truly? One. You see, while you're busy taking care of everybody else, who is it that's taking care of you? You were given one human being, one mind, one soul, one body, one life. We are so bananas focused about what people who know nothing about what's going on in your life think. And what happens is you can get so concerned about the opinions and the judgments of all these other people that you're taking care of and that you're being nice to, that you forget about the one person's opinion that actually matters, and that's yours. And when silencing yourself and being way more concerned about what everybody thinks becomes a pattern, you are holding yourself back. You don't go after your dreams because you're way too caught up in what everybody else is thinking. For every person that's got a side eye or an eye roll or an opinion about what you're doing, I promise you, when you make the decision to live your life for you, the right people will find you. Is this going to be easy to chart your own path, to hear what people have to say, but not let it define what you do next? It's going to take a little bit of practice, but once you make the decision to live your life for you, I promise you, everything will fall into place. Sometimes when the dream is so big, the fact that it's so big becomes paralyzing because you think about where you are right now and you think, holy cow, that thing that I really want? I don't even, how do you even start when the dream is so big? So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to shrink it down because you know me, I am all about simplicity. I'm all about making sure that the advice works for you because if it doesn't work for you, you're not going to do it. And I'm all about switching how you think about things, making this smaller and making it something that I'm learning about rather than doing and launching and that somehow thinking about it differently frees up the ability to get started. If I get you to start doing that, and you do this every day for 10 or 15 minutes, which you absolutely can, guess what's going to happen? You're going to feel momentum. You're going to feel like you're working on it. You're going to meet people that are interested in it. You're going to learn things that are going to lead to the next thing that you need to learn. And you will have mastered the art of getting started. And by doing something a little bit every day, you're also going to master the art of continuing to keep going. And from there, it'll snowball. I promise you. How does your favorite sports team begin the game? By high-fiving each other to send yourself out into the game. But when researchers actually studied NBA teams, they could predict who's going to be the most successful teams at the end of the season and who's going to be at the bottom of the league based on one characteristic at the beginning of the season in the preseason. And that is, how many times does the team in the preseason do fist bumps, high fives, or pats on the back? And what they found is it's the teams that do that the most in the beginning have the winningest record. And the question is why? Well, the reason why is these gestures are more than gestures. They are symbols of trust and partnership. They build momentum. And so many of us are struggling in life with people pleasing and guilt and all of these emotions because we have broken that partnership with ourselves. Yes. And this is a way every morning after brushing your teeth, we're going to stack this habit. Put the toothbrush down, pick up your hand, look yourself in the mirror and say, how am I going to show up for that human being today? And seal it with a high five. That's it. Got to raise your own game. And so what is the game that you play at work? You got to get out of the head that it's all about you. The best team members are always thinking about how to make the team better. The best team members are loyal to the team. The best people to work with are the ones that are in it together. And so in order for you to get your toxic colleague to shift behavior, you got to model it. And here's the interesting thing about the research. When people are working with coworkers or on a team where people collaborate and where you have honest conversations, it creates what we call psychological safety, which basically just means I feel safe working with you. I know that if I come to you with feedback, you'll listen. I know that if I tell you how your behavior is impacting me, you'll actually care. I know that if you need help, you'll come to me, and I know if I need help, I can come to you. That's what psychological safety means. You're a safe person and hopefully a fun person to work with. So you've got to model that. That means you got to ask for support. That means you got to have direct conversations, and it means you got to support your team members too. And do you realize that when you work with other people that do this, team members are 35 times more likely to show visible commitment to your success. And they're 47% more likely when you model it to work hard to build and maintain your trust. So don't ever get resigned in thinking that the way that you behave won't impact how somebody else is behaving around you. Let me explain what happens. So there's a really interesting concept called ghosts in the nursery. And so trauma patterns get automated because they're not experienced in your brain, they're felt in your nervous system. And so it's why you can have a pattern from your past, but be completely unaware
that it's running your life right now, because it's stored not in your conscious thought, but in your nervous system. And you feel it in your body before it even gets into your head. And so there's this concept called ghosts in the nursery, which basically means there's all kinds of that goes on when you're little that you may or may not remember in your mind, but your body remembers it. So for example, if you had parents that were just stressed out and they come home and they've been busy and you're sitting there playing on the floor and there's toys everywhere, and mom or dad's reaction to a mess is to scream, that creates this kind of thing in your nervous system. Now, you may not remember that episode that happened on May 17th, 1972, but your nervous system remembers what it's like. So fast forward, you're now 51 years old and you walk in the house and there's a mess everywhere. And even though you have said, I'm not going to bulldoze and yell at anybody, my body recognizes the situation. So what do? You repeat the pattern you saw. And so what I'm working on right now is a pattern that is encoded in my nervous system. I was trying to create a video 2 days ago for Share the Mic now. Trying to create a video, and I'm like doing take after take because I want to get it right. And my daughter comes waltzing into the room and was like, how long are you going to be doing this? And I was like, can't you see that I'm working? I literally like screamed at her. And she looked at me, Lewis, and she goes, you have a real problem.
Wow. How old is your daughter?
20. And I said, I calmly said, you're right, I do. When I get interrupted, I lose control of the response. And I'm working so hard. And the way that and I'm clearly not mastering this yet, but the way that you do it is as you feel it rise up, you have to, you can use the 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can use just take a quick breath. You can notice the pattern, and you've got to create a pause between the emotion rising up and the reaction that gets automated. And for many people, the reaction, Lewis, is to run away. It's to leave the room. Mm-hmm. It's to avoid the confrontation. It was just easy, hold on, let me let the clock go.
Even though you hate being interrupted by anything, this is a great interruption.
See, I did. I didn't do the bulldoze. I was calm because it wasn't a human being. I'm only mean to human beings. A lot of people run away. They avoid conflict. They say it's just easier. But if running away and avoiding conflict continues to create a pattern where you feel invisible and your boundaries are tromped on, that's a pattern. And, here's the other thing about patterns. Running away and being quiet might have saved you when you were little. Because if you were quiet and out of the room, you didn't get hit, you didn't get yelled at, you were out of harm's way. So when you were little, it was a genius pattern because it protected you. But the issue for adults is that, again, we walk around with the patterns that we created when we were 8 years old in different situations than we are in now. And now we are completely a robot to these patterns. The reason why it's so important to start with a friend cleanse, and I'm sure a lot of you, how many of you heard that and you thought, oh my God, getting rid of people. Oh boy, I'm going to cleanse these friends. Yes and no. A friend cleanse is critical because the single most influential thing around you are the people that you hang out with. And if you have relationships that are toxic, if you have relationships that cause guilt, if you have relationships that are creating drama in your life, if you have relationships that are not equitable, guess what? That's creating the overwhelm. That's creating unhappiness. That's keeping you doubting yourself. If you have friends that have bad habits, guess what? That's making it really, really hard for you to change your habits for the good. Jealousy is one of the most powerful directional signals on the planet because you're only jealous of people that are doing things or have things that you actually want. It's impossible to be fake jealous. Whatever you're jealous of is hitting something deeply personal. Pay attention to it. Instead of stewing in it, go, oh, flip it. That's interesting. I wonder why I'm jealous. What is it about it? Oh, It's that they're doing it consistently. It's that they've built a team. It's that they've aligned their work together so that they're spending more time together. How could I take those things that I'm really now really inspired by and take action and go get them in my life? Because the thing about jealousy is it's just your inspiration that's blocked. Jealousy is sort of the insecurity that you have that blocks this inspiration. I guarantee you, back to the Uber driver, he's jealous of all the other actors earning Oscars because he's so inspired by the thought of doing that in his own life, but his insecurity is blocking action. His fear is blocking action. So instead of it being inspiration, it shows up as jealousy. And I'm here to tell you, the second you feel jealousy, frickin' whoop, stop. Okay, let's unpack that. What exactly is it about it? And now, if I were inspired by it, because there's enough success to go around for everybody, if I can use that as a roadmap to then go figure out how I might be able to do that for myself, wow, talk about a game changer. And now let's add in the high five. What if every time I took a little step, I celebrated myself for just doing it? Now you're building small wins and momentum in a direction that's meant for you. That's how you change your life. As is the case in life, you're always going to be growing. And when you hit new chapters in your life, it's really important to be deliberate and mindful about the people that you spend time with and who you surround yourself with. Does that mean you got to ditch your high school friends? Absolutely not. But it might mean that you shouldn't spend as much time with them. It might mean that you should show up to those friendships a little bit differently, and maybe they'll go a little bit deeper. And it definitely means that based on where you are in your life right now, that you should get more proactive about surrounding yourself with a group of new friends or current friends that are up to the same kind of growth that you are. Oftentimes when you hit bottom, you bounce. And that's where I think the power is, that when the world feels upside down, you always have the power to make it right. When one chapter ends, you always have the power to write a new one. When, you feel like nobody loves you, you have the power to learn how to love yourself. And if there's one thing that COVID-19 has done, regardless of whatever devastation it has caused in your life, is it has forced us all to experience the great pause. And I read that in a Medium article, and I loved that idea of a pause, because I think in 2020, our lives have gotten so fast and so digital. And when you are forced to pause and get present and to slow down, you are reminded of what's actually important. And what's important is your health. What's important is your family and your friends. What's important is whether or not you are taking care of yourself and thinking positive thoughts versus negative thoughts. The world gave us a gigantic experiment where we got to practice and get to continue to practice the most important skill on the planet, which is emotional resilience, the ability to face hard and actually be okay, the ability to face the uncertain and redirect your attention on things that you know that are certain.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Rachel Hollis, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
And as a recovering people pleaser, I struggled for years with wanting to make sure everyone was happy, and the idea that someone, my husband or my in-laws or my parents, might be disappointed in me was crippling.